This is DV LeBron, and this is DV in the Word. You ever walk up to a fruit tree and you grab the fruit, take a bite out of it, thinking it's going to be sweet, and then the fruit is sour? It fooled you. It looked so beautiful, and then you took a bite. Well, that means something got into that tree, and it made the fruit bitter. Today, my friends, I want to talk about bitterness. In Hebrews 12:15, it says, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many." Bitterness is a dangerous thing because it can grow and spread like a root that takes hold and entangles everything in its path. And then, like in that tree, make the fruit bitter. When you allow bitterness to take root in our hearts, it can cause us to fall short of the grace of God. It can also trouble and defile many. Bitterness is often caused by hurt, disappointment, and betrayal. When we feel wronged, we may begin to harbor resentment and anger towards the person who hurt us. We may replay the offense over and over in our minds. I know that happens to me sometimes, each time becoming more bitter and resentful. But as the author of Hebrews reminds us, we must be vigilant to guard against bitterness. We must be careful not to let it take root in our hearts, because if we do, it can grow and spread, causing us to fall short of God's grace and causing trouble and division within our communities. So what can we do to guard against bitterness? The first step is to acknowledge it and to confess it to God. We must recognize that bitterness is a sin, and we must ask God to help us overcome it. We must ask Him to heal our hearts and to fill us with His love and grace. Secondly, and the hardest thing, is we must choose to forgive those who have hurt us. Now that's difficult, because when somebody has hurt us, who wants to forgive them? But when God talks about forgiveness, He wasn't talking about forgiving somebody you liked or somebody who hadn't wronged you. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not easy, but it is essential if we want to avoid bitterness. When we choose to forgive, we release ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment. And that was the key word, release ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment. We allow God's grace to work in our hearts and to bring healing and restoration. We must choose to walk in love. Love is the antidote to bitterness. When we choose to love, we are choosing to put others first, to extend grace, and to show kindness and compassion. Love can heal even the deepest wounds and can bring reconciliation where there was once division. Let us be vigilant and guard against bitterness. Let us choose to forgive, to walk in love, and to seek God's grace and healing. As we do so, we will avoid the dangers of bitterness, and we will experience peace and joy, unity that come from walking in obedience in God's words. And maybe our fruit won't be so bitter on our tree. This is DV LeBron, and that was DV in the Word.